see three possible answers to the question I'm about to ask you. One answer is Cummings, one answer is Johnson, and one answer is neither of them. I don't quite see how neither of them is going to land, but that perhaps is the answer I'd most like to receive from you. Remember, on this programme, I need the why, not just the what. What you think is interesting, but why you think is how we can determine whether or not it's valid or not. So who do you think is telling the truth? Johnson bodged it and caused COVID chaos, claims Cummings. No, I didn't, says Johnson. Who would you trust? And if it's going to be neither of them, then I need an account as to why. They are both so spectacularly dishonest and untrustworthy. Cummings presiding over the Vote Leave campaign that fed astonishing levels of misinformation into the Facebook feeds of the nation. Boris Johnson, as you well know, lied to everybody in his entire life, whether it's wives and mistresses, employers, party leaders or voters. But it doesn't matter, I hear that. And the third way would be, well, I don't believe either of them. Do you know, there's a little bit of me that leans towards option 3 on this, because Cummings clearly possesses that slightly sociopathic ability to completely rewrite history in the hope of casting himself in a more positive light. So I don't trust Dominic Cummings completely on this issue, even though the sight of a circular firing squad between these reprobates should be quite cheering. The minute you start thinking, oh, this is quite enjoyable, you remember that it's actually the national interest, it's national security and national health that are the pawns in these psychodramas. So Cummings seems to be trying to rewrite history in the same way, of course, that he rewrote his blog, didn't he? He inserted something into his blog to make it look like he'd predicted the pandemic when it was quickly established that he hadn't. He'd added that after returning to work, after the Barnard Castle debacle. Johnson, I think, only ever really tells the truth by accident, or if he thinks that the truth is actually going to be more useful to him than a lie. Where do you even start? The Irish seaboarder. Even at the beginning of this year, the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland was claiming that there wasn't one. Now you've got the Frost fellow claiming that they signed it because they were under pressure to do so due to deadlines that they'd imposed upon themselves. And now that they've actually read what they signed, it's pretty awful and it's all the other fella's fault. So that notion of honesty, that set sail many, many moons ago, which is why I suspect if we were ever to get the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, it would be a slightly diluted version of what Cummings alleges, as in Johnson did bodge it and he did cause COVID chaos, but not on the scale and not in such an inexcusable fashion as Dominic Cummings would attest. And part of my reason for suggesting that is that the herd immunity argument, the claim that herd immunity was the tactic, was the strategy, is quite nuanced. Herd immunity is the only way that you deal with a pandemic. So automatically you have to explain what definition of herd immunity you're deploying. And what Cummings is suggesting is that Johnson or the government wanted the virus to run through the population so that people who weren't that vulnerable to it would catch it and build up some sort of resistance. How you could have done that while protecting the people who were vulnerable to it, I don't know. But it was clearly concluded fairly quickly that that wasn't going to work, and therefore lockdowns were the answer. The lockdown came demonstrably late, fatally late, lethally late. I don't know how hard you'd have to be tugging your forelock this morning to pretend otherwise. And part of the reason why it was so late would appear to be a resistance to the very idea of a lockdown, and B, if Cummings is to be believed, the fact that the Prime Minister was a bit too busy with a biography of William Shakespeare to focus upon a pandemic that went on to kill 128,000 of the people he supposedly governs. Now, that's another one of those sentences that when I say it out loud, I can't believe quite how far we've fallen, and indeed how fast we've fallen. You now live in a country where it is reported in your news that the Prime Minister was too busy writing a biography of William Shakespeare to really take firm leadership at the beginning of a pandemic which went on to kill around 130,000 of the people he supposedly governs. I'm tempted to say it again, but you know the facts, and a significant number of people remain persuaded that they shouldn't really care about it.